In the second essay that you have in the book, you write about reframing our sense of self and the world in plague times. And certainly that's where we find ourselves, being really confronted with archetypal forces that are way bigger than we are in our own time.
Mm-hmm. And ironically, way smaller than we think we are because of something that is so small that apparently billions can fit inside the grain of a sand, if I understand correctly about the nature of the virus. So
yeah, that was one of the things I highlighted here. You wrote, an organism 1,000 times smaller than a grain of sand is more powerful than the masters of the earth. Go figure, you say.
that's right.
The irony of that. Go
So,
figure.
well, it certainly reframes our sense of sovereignty in the world, doesn't it? And our sense of
I'll say.
domination over the world. And, in the end, nature always wins. It's just a question of how long the battle lasts. What I think has happened to so many people is it has obliged them to begin to look at their lives apart from the usual places they plug them into. For example, for so many people, going to the factory, going to the office, going to the day job took up so much energy and so much sort of investment of identity. And when you pull the plug on those things and you're on your own and you're not being supported by your daily marching assignment, a lot of people have had a loss of a sense of self. That's what happens when people go through the death of a partner, or loss of a job when they're fired, or downsizing or retirement. We begin to realize how much I invested in that other as a means of sort of my identity, my script, my sense of value, and so forth. And when that's removed for whatever reason, one has to sort of reframe one's sense of self and world. It's also meant that people have had to sort of rediscover a relationship to themselves. Not everybody has managed to do that well. Many people have. Many people have been able to regenerate interests left behind, have discovered everything from new businesses at home to new forms of self-expression. And of course, out of this, the world's going to change a great deal. Fewer people are going to be going back to those offices. We've had fewer cars on the road. We've had a lot of changes, the full implications of which we don't know yet.
Right.
But as the world begins to so-called return to normal, that normal is going to be changed. And so whenever we go through some sort of change in our environment, it forces some kind of change in the inner environment as well. And some people have fared well with that, and some people have had a great deal of difficulty.
Yeah, I like it where you write, the human ego, tasked with interacting with the outer world, so often imagines itself big boss, the emperor of impulse, the diviner of desire, and the czar of choice. All the while, it is a fragile cluster of energy full of, here was a new word for me, tergiversations,
Yes,
tergiversations,
yeah.
contradictions, swirling fears, rationalizations, excuses, and shabby justifications.
Mm-hmm. Yep. In other words,
I had to look up tergiversations.
yes, yes, yes.
And I'm trying to tell me again what it means.
Well, sure. It's the various distractions and sidebars that we can slide into. Distractions would be another word that we might use.
Okay.
Diversions, 1,000 things. It's like when they're taken away, such as happens when maybe we have a serious illness or one has enforced isolation for some reason. Then you begin to realize how much my socialized roles, my daily schedule played in carrying my sense of self. Blaise Pascal in the 17th century, long before Home Shopping Network and the internet, said humankind's chief difficulty is its inability to be alone with itself in its private chamber for very long at all.
Mm.
Why is it so intolerable to be present to ourselves? That's the question I think this plague time has caused many people to ask in so many words, or perhaps to run from asking it, but then to realize you just keep running up against it nonetheless.
Well, you reposition the plague in a way by suggesting that COVID might be seen as a divine encounter.
Well, I have no idea what it is, except once when his later years, Jung was asked to define what he meant by God. And he said, I call God that which flings itself violently across our path and alters our conscious intentions for good or for ill. Now, that's a very peculiar definition. He's obviously not making a metaphysical statement or a theological statement as much as he's saying, whatever radically causes us to reframe our sense of self and world is an encounter with a mystery.